What's up, guys? It's MMA Matt here, and for today's video, I will be explaining why Khamzat Chimaev is Robert Whittaker's worst stylistic matchup and why he will need a career-defining performance to defeat Khamzat Chimaev at UFC weight in Abu Dhabi. So this video will be split up into two parts. Part one will be discussing why Khamzat Chimaev is such a tough stylistic matchup for Robert Whittaker, and then part two will discuss how I think Robert Whittaker can edge out a split decision or a dominant 48-47 decision against Khamzat Chimaev. Now, my first reason why Khamzat Chimaev is such a difficult matchup for Robert Whittaker is because of the power and strength difference that Khamzat Chimaev has over Whittaker. Now, if you watch Whittaker's fights, you know that Robert Whittaker has a history of struggling with huge, dominant, and physically strong opponents, such as Dricus du Plessis, who actually finished Robert Whittaker in the second round. And we all know that Chimaev was a massive welterweight, and he's still a huge middleweight for the division. And Khamzat Chimaev is just visibly and physically bigger than Whittaker, and the difference will show in the grappling and wrestling sequences. Not only does Khamzat Chimaev have a physicality advantage in the grappling and wrestling, he also has a physicality advantage in the striking because of the knockout power he holds in his hands. Now, my second reason why Khamzat Chimaev is such a difficult matchup for Robert Whittaker is because of the chin discrepancy between the two. If you watch back their fights, you see moments like Khamzat Chimaev taking a huge right hand from Gilbert Burns, which basically spun his head around, and he kept moving forward and kept applying pressure to Gilbert Burns. And when you look at Robert Whittaker's fights, you see him getting dropped by a jab by Dricus. Moments like those show that Khamzat Chimaev just has a better ability of taking shots than Robert Whittaker, and he just doesn't get rocked the same when they get hit by power punches clean to the chin. And even in this fight, I just don't see Khamzat Chimaev getting KO'd by Whittaker because I feel like Robert Whittaker, he can't really KO elite level middleweights unless he catches them with a really clean shot. And if anyone was to win by KO, it would be Khamzat because he just has more pop in his shots. And like I said, going back to the first point, he's just physically stronger than Whittaker, so we can just hit harder. Now, my third point on why Khamzat Chimaev is such a difficult matchup for Robert Whittaker is because of Khamzat Chimaev's takedowns, grappling, and his submission threat on the ground. Now, Robert Whittaker, he's had success against elite level wrestlers like Yoel Romero, but he has not proven against fighters who combine elite level wrestling with elite level grappling, such as Chimaev. And I would say Dricus du Plessis, he fits in that category of an elite level wrestler and grappler. And Robert Whittaker, he lost to him. And Robert Whittaker, he's primarily a striker, and he's not that elite on the ground as Chimaev, and he has no success of being elite operating off his back. So I feel like if Khamzat Chimaev, if he gets his back on Robert Whittaker, it might be over for that round unless the ref stands them up. Because when have you seen Robert Whittaker pull a Charles Oliveira off his back? Like you'll never see Robert Whittaker like threaten any submissions off the ground, and his best bet would just be trying to stand back up. And due to the skill discrepancy on the ground, it's highly likely that Chimaev can just win by submission and at the very least just rack up control time, which would favor the fight in his decision in the judge's eyes. So those conclude my three reasons why I believe Khamzat Chimaev is such a difficult stylistic matchup for Robert Whittaker. And now we're moving into part two of the video, which is my paths to victory that I found that Robert Whittaker might be able to follow to edge out a split decision or even win a dominant 48-47 decision against Chimaev. So my first path to victory for Robert Whittaker is to try to keep the fight on the feet. And I realize this is way easier said than done, but I feel like Robert Whittaker has it in him because he has a takedown defense of 82%, which is really good for the middleweight division. So my second path to victory for Robert Whittaker is to try to weather the storm of the first round. We all know that Khamzat Chimaev, he's going to come into the first round, guns blazing, immense pressure, immense just he's just going to try and get at you, and he's going to try and use that physicality that he has to an advantage. So Robert Whittaker, he needs to find a way to stay in the fight, minimize the damage that will be happening in this first round, and just try and survive. One huge advantage that Robert Whittaker has over Khamzat Chimaev is that this is a 5 round fight. And if he's going to use that to advantage, he needs to make it out of the first round. My third path to victory for Robert Whittaker is to utilize his speed advantage. I do believe that Whitaker will be having a speed advantage, especially into the later rounds when Khamzat Chimaev gets tired. So I believe he needs to use that. One way that he can use his speed advantage is to definitely dart in and out of range with his jab, like his patented style. Or he can use his speed advantage defensively by utilizing head movement to not be caught by Chimaev's punches cleanly to reduce the risk of getting KO'd. My fourth path to victory for Robert Whittaker is to invest in leg kicks to stifle the movement of Chimaev in the later rounds, and to invest in quick body kicks to impact Chimaev's gas tank to tire him out faster. The reason I specify quick body kicks is because if you kick too slow and too fatigued, Chimaev can easily catch that leg and use it to get better positioning on a takedown, which can put Whittaker in a very bad position. Now, my fifth and final path to victory for Robert Whittaker is to minimize damage and control time on the ground. Because of Khamzat Chimaev's wrestling skill set and prowess, I do believe he will be taking down Whittaker multiple times in this whole fight. So while he is getting taken down, he needs to minimize damage by using wrist control and threading submissions, which he needs to add to his game, and minimize damage by wrist control and by also covering up while he's on the ground. Now, if Robert Whittaker follows these paths to victory to the T, I definitely think that he'll be able to edge out a split decision or a 48-47 decision against Khamzat. With all things being said, I just want to commend Robert Whittaker for taking on such a stylistic nightmare for him instead of sitting out waiting for a title shot like other fighters are. And even if he does win this fight, it won't take away from the amazing legacy that he left in the middleweight division. But I just want to say that I will be picking Khamzat Chimaev by first or second round submission. So if you guys like this video, comment, subscribe. I would like to know your thoughts on the situation as well. And I'll see you guys in the next video.